Hey, you guys, this is Rashanos for News, Views, and Conversations. Just wanted to pop in and give you another video for James Carville. He has been speaking heavy words about you know who, Mr. DJT himself. I think everybody has officially caught on to the whole shenanigan mess with him and Elon. Is garbage at this point, especially after what we saw last week when President Zelensky from Ukraine came to visit the White House to finish the deal for the minerals that they were supposed to do. We all saw that it went out of hand. It was completely out of hand. It was horrific. It was embarrassing. It was disgraceful. It was everything that's bad about seeing our country on the world stage to be embarrassed to this magnitude. Um, I've never seen anything like this before. I mean, most presidents are very dignified with pride, but not what we have in office at this time. They have completely disgraced this entire country. We've, of course, heard from Jasmine Crockett, her stating that he literally is an enemy of the state, of the United States. The leaders across the world abroad are saying we need a new leader. They have pretty much called us out and called us to the altar saying, "What's up with your boy? This is beyond toxic." I can't imagine the next 4 years. We're praying through it. We're hoping we get through it, but it's just really horrible. His boy, JD Vance, he pretty much blew up the deal. So he is not the guy that you want to have in the room or at the closing table when you about to do business, because he just put his whole foot in his mouth. He need to be away or whatever, away from everything. He don't even need to be vice president at this point. Garbage, garbage, garbage beyond garbage. James Carville is an American political consultant, author, and occasional actor who has strategized for candidates for public office in the United States and in at least 23 nations abroad. So this guy is reversed politically. He understands the gameplay very well to the point where he's actually sitting here saying, hey, let's just see what happens in the next 30 days. This is not going to be good for the United States. All these different things that he's talking about doing, this is not good at all. He's actually giving it to Memorial Day weekend. And we all know what happens when it gets hot. People start acting real crazy. People showing up at the town hall meetings, having fits about what's going on. Ain't nobody liking this at all. This is just toxic, toxic, toxic. I don't even want to play the video of what I saw with Zelensky coming over to try to finish up the deal. It was terrible. I am very ashamed of the United States for us to even be in this situation. It's a no-brainer. This guy should have never been able to run. He should not be president. I was horrified myself. My heart dropped because I do not like that kind of behavior where if you see that someone needs help, why would you try to embarrass them about what you've done for them? You're bringing up the past about what you've done. Matter of fact, you didn't do it. Biden and Harris made sure that Ukraine was taken care of, not you. This is just the tail end of what you just came in on. So how dare you sit here and try to embarrass this man on a world stage, talking about he wouldn't be the strong man that he is if it wasn't for the United States. They've already, given them weapons. If it wasn't for him, they probably wouldn't even be in the fight. I mean, just all kind of nasty. Again, I told one of my friends, this is why people don't like for people to do stuff for them. Because the last thing somebody wants to hear is you throwing up in their face about what you've done, down to the point telling the man he hasn't said thank you. And we can go back and pull all the tapes of the times that he has said thank you and showed how grateful he is for what the United States has done. And down to Mortgage, her and her country bumpkin husband talking about the man clothes and what he's wearing. He's wearing those clothes in solidarity with his military soldiers that are fighting to save the country of Ukraine. How ignorant of them to ask the man about his clothes and what he's wearing. Why doesn't he have a suit on? Why isn't he dressed like us? Complete ignorance. He is from another country. This is how he dresses when he wants to be in solidarity with his soldiers. So how dare you try to comfort this man in such a way? They literally tried to embarrass him and make him look like the small man, but in reality, he's the big man. He's not a weakling. He's not kowtowing and going along with the dictator. Something that is just a definite no go if you are a United States citizen or person or whatever. You should not be going along with someone that is not from this country and therefore the wrong things. So he's pretty much already letting us know what side of the fence he's on when it comes to the United States. And I mean, hopefully, if we can get through this debacle, hopefully they can draw up a law saying if you are not 10 toes down with the United States, you do not need to be in office. You do not need to be serving this country in any capacity because all you're doing right now is cutting deals for yourself and Elon and whatever you got worked out with Putin, of course. It's clear to see you don't need to be serving in any capacity over these 50 United States. Ain't no 51st state. Canada is not a part of the United States, nor do they want to be, and I don't blame them. You don't need to be in any capacity doing anything on behalf of the people. It's clear to see the play that has been made. Whatever money that Elon put on your head for 300 million, that's between you and him. That ain't got nothing to do with the people. So what you did was you played the people, had them come out to vote for you, and now you're using the people to pay your debt. So he put 300 million down. Now he's making a zillion by gutting the system and stealing the money from the people. This is some foolishness. Out of everything I've ever seen and all the things that I pay attention to, it's like blatant in your face. You can see some stuff like this in your personal life, but to see it on the world stage in our government, maybe I've been sleeping. I've never paid attention to it this close and this much. But again, the whole administration is toxic, garbage. President is garbage. The administration, DEI, whatever you want to call them, throw the whole cabinet away. This is an embarrassment to the entire United States of America. We can never come here again. Again, I want to leave you with the video that I got for James Carville. Love this guy, straight to the point. Hey, he is straight to the point, no chaser. Hey, it's what it is. And I like people like that, people that get to the point of what's going on. This has to stop. I pray to God it stops tomorrow or as soon as possible because we cannot have this kind of leadership in the United States. Everybody has spoken. The world has spoken. The people are speaking. Even the MAGA voters are speaking. World leaders saying, you need a new leader. Hey, get him out of there. He can't leave soon enough. So I will see you guys in the next video. Let me know what you think in
the corruption is so penetrating, is so deep, is so broad. And the only thing is that as corrupt as the Supreme Court? I don't know. It's a good discussion because the Supreme Court, in my opinion, is run by a corrupt cabal right in front of your face, corruption. And we can go through it if we want to, but that's what the era that we're living in. We're living in massive, staggering, breathtaking, penetrating corruption. All you got to do is look at Eric Adams. Look at that. Look at what's going on in the most important city in the world.
Boy, you get out of breath every day, James. The breakneck speed of actions of this Trump administration have several common threads. One, the rule of law is irrelevant. Two, make money, all the way from grifting to breaking the casino, taking the lead from Trump and Musk. And the effects on average folks, sometimes cruel, sometimes dangerous, be damned. Under what legal authority does Elon Musk enjoy to shutter entire agencies authorized by Congress, fire thousands without any process, and force access to the most personal and sensitive data of Americans? This ultimately may be stopped, but a lot of damage is going to take place. It'll be very hard and take a long time to reverse. One reform I can assure you Trump's not going to make is anything adversely affecting his billions of government contract. And Trump, as the Times reports, is working to get a PGA Saudis deal, which it happens he would benefit from financially. I'm going to make 2 points about the Musk firings, which include the FAA. Those have had no effects on the recent airline incidents. But as Jim Fallows, who in addition to being a great journalist is also a pilot and aviation expert, notes, if you lay off people who make air travel safe, you're inviting unsafe air travel. That's really rather simple. Two, there is a measles outbreak in Texas, and we have an HHS secretary, RFK Jr., who is a prominent opponent of vaccine. Three, Musk now has access to the Internal Revenue files. Now, it's a crime to improperly use or release any of that information. Do you think that'll stop him?
No.
If you're on Trump's enemies list, James, I think we agree. You better worry. And just if I spoke with IRS Commissioner John Koskin, former IRS Commissioner, served under both Obama and Trump, and along with Sheldon Cohen, I think the best commissioner in my lifetime. And he said, apart from my concerns about safety and privacy and all of that, they could not pick a worse time to be meddling with the IRS. This is tax filing season, and this is going to mess up a lot of that. They threaten to really, really mess up the filings of a lot of average Americans. It's not going to affect the wealthy with accountants and lawyers, but it's going to really, it could potentially wreak havoc on a lot of average folks. They may be getting away with it for now, but ultimately a lot of this stuff is a disaster, James.
Well, disaster is hardly the word. Is first of all, we're living in a klepto state of staggering, breathtaking, far-reaching, penetrating corruption. And of course, Trump is totally corrupt. Look at everything he's done. Look at understand, Amazon paid, this is according to the Wall Street Journal and the New York Post. So everybody take a deep breath. The Wall Street Journal and the New York Post share common ownership. It's called Rupert Murdoch.
Right.
Fox News. $41 million for a documentary for Melania, of which, according to them, she's going to pocket $28 million. But we're not done with the corruption. They're going to sell credits, corporate credits, at $10 million apiece. So when they roll the credits at the end of the movie for $10 million, they'll include you. Now, this is Amazon, which owns the Washington Post. The corruption is so penetrating, is so deep, is so broad, and the only thing is that as corrupt as the Supreme Court? I don't know. It's a good discussion because the Supreme Court, in my opinion, is run by a corrupt cabal right in front of your face. Right in front of your face, corruption. And we can go through it if we want to, but that's what the era that we're living in. We're living in massive, staggering, breathtaking, penetrating corruption. All you got to do is look at Eric Adams. Look at that. Look at what's going on in the most important city in the world. And you'll get an idea. It's the Supreme Court. It's the city of New York. It's the executive branch. It's everywhere you see. It's not minor corruption. It's not part of the system. It's not the give and take that goes on. This is just stealing with both hands and both feet right in front of you. And the Supreme Court is included.
Well, the Eric Adams thing, which we discussed, is really, really outrageous. They conditionally pardoned him. They gave him a pardon. This is the indicted New York City mayor, who's, if you read the stories, it's an administration rife with corruption. And the pardon they gave him was, if you play ball with Trump, we'll keep pardoning you. But if you don't, Tom Homan, the Homeland Security czar / thug, came and said, I'll be right in your office up your butt. I've never quite heard of a pardon like this, but that's the way they play. I hope the governor of New York dismisses him. She has the power to do that. She ought to do that. He's brought tremendous discredit to the city. It may result in the election of Andrew Cuomo as mayor. I don't particularly like that, but it's a hell of a lot better than keeping this guy in there.
Well, I said on Lauren Melba's show that she should run his ass out of there and speak up. But she calls me on the phone and F-bombs me to death about the process. And I said, Governor, I'm sorry. Process hell. This guy needs to leave the most important city in the world, and he needs to leave now. And if he wants to wait for the process to work, we'll take the process and shove it right up his stupid, corrupt ass. It's time to speak out against this goddamn corruption that's going on all over the country and in New York City. And Governor Hochul run his stupid ass out of there pronto.
Absolutely. You know, there's so much here. He doesn't, obviously Trump is a sworn enemy of any accountability, whether it's congressional or legal or anything else. And he's declared war on the press. the outrageous defamation suits against CBS, 60 Minutes, the Des Moines Register's Ann Seltzer, but it is working. It is already having a chilling effect. Disney capitulated on a Trump suit that he never would have won, but they got a lot of business dealings, so they gave him $16 million. Trump is banning the Associated Press. That's the gold standard of fair reporting around the world. Now, why is he banning them? He's banning them because they won't call his Gulf of America. They keep referring to it as the Gulf of Mexico, which most countries do. I mean, this is just extraordinary. And I'll tell you, his next target is going to be the most important press protection, which is the so-called Sullivan case of 60 years ago that really affords protection for investigative reporters and holds the powerful accountable. It's a myth that you can't ever win a defamation suit. You can. Fox was about to lose one last year. They drove Gawker out of business, but it's hard, as it ought to be. But they're going after this very, very soon. You know, Trump and his gang, they love to talk about the First Amendment and freedom of speech, which they say is being denied conservatives. I think that's a reach. But they missed that part of the First Amendment that refers to freedom of the press. They're turning this country into Hungary on steroids.
Well, I gotta say that the corporate media, which for the most part is the media, all right, there are notable exceptions, but I mean, just look at the Post, look at Amazon, look at the Los Angeles Times, right. Look at Disney, look at Paramount, CBS, all right? Look at what they're doing. It's free press. There's some bastions left, holdouts of free press, but a lot of their press is just acquiescing in this corruption. And maybe they feel like they have to. Do they have any idea? Does the Washington Post have any idea of what history is going to say about them? I don't know. I don't know if that they do. I don't know if they've thought that far. I really don't.
You know, when Obama foolishly tried to exclude Fox News from the so-called Whitehouse pool, all the other networks and wire services rallied behind Fox. They said, you don't have the right to do that. I'm waiting for him to rally behind the Associated Press. It was foolish what Obama tried to do. This, if anything, is even worse. But you're right. It's had this chilling effect already.
You hold out hope for them. I hate to say it, with some exceptions from this, but for the most part, the institution of, quote, the press, unquote, doesn't exist anymore. It's gone away. The Supreme Court is going away of everything. Everybody is in on the corruption.
But James, you would hope, okay, it's bad here at home, but if we turn to foreign affairs, maybe it'd get better. It at least wouldn't be as bad. If you thought that, you'd be wrong. In Europe, Pete Hegseth, the eminently unqualified defense secretary, made what the Republican chairman of the Armed Services Committee, Roger Wicker, called a, quote, rookie mistake. You know, if the HUD secretary makes a rookie mistake, it's a problem. If the defense secretary does it, it could be a crisis. At the same time, over in Munich, the administration seems to be warming up to the right-wing, sometimes neo-Nazi German political party that is a threat to finish as high as second in the next elections. But above all, there is an authoritarian ball going on in Saudi Arabia, where the Russians and Americans, with the Saudis as a host, are working out a peace deal for the Ukrainian war, which, by the way, Trump said the Ukrainians started. Somehow it was the Ukrainians that forced those invading Russian tanks and planes into their country. Both Ukraine and the Europeans, people don't realize this, the Europeans have actually contributed more to Ukraine's defense than the Americans. Both were stiff. They were not invited. A peace conference to end a war when one of the combatants is excluded. How does that work, James?
First of all, you go back to what he said, and I don't know why I would never believe this, but I think Roger Wicker might be we're always looking for some principal Republican somewhere, but we never thought to look in Mississippi of all places.
Right.
He also said I don't have the words in front of me, but it in effect said it's idiotic to say that Ukraine started this war. Of course it's idiotic. We all saw what happened. But maybe Al Hunt's lifetime search for the principal conservative might have found a home in all places. We were looking in Illinois, and we were looking, all around the country, and
Tennessee, Kansas,
Mississippi.
Oh, well, I mean, the Secretary of State who's over there, Marco Rubio, was one of the really, really active advocates of helping Ukraine, a harsh critic of Russia. You think he'll keep that up, James?
Oh, it's Al, it's all corruption. It's everybody is paying everybody off. We have corruption in every branch of the federal government. We have corruption up and down the press. We have corruption not just in the usual places. It's literally everywhere. We're surrounded by a sea of total corruption. And I brought up the only thing we'll talk about a little bit in the show, but I am really starting to like the Democrats' position, at least politically and in terms of what's coming up. But I don't know, and I think the Democrats will come back to power quicker than people realize. I don't know if there's going to be anything left in the country. I think they're going to steal it all by the time we get back.
It's going to take a long time to undo what they're doing. This is not a conservative or a liberal revolution. This is anarchy. It's trying to change.
The only guy over there that actually has some coherence to it is Bannon. I mean, I think he's a ethno-nationalist. He'd probably say he's the same thing. I find that philosophy to be utterly repugnant. But at least he's consistent. And he's the guy that's speaking more to the corruption more effectively than any liberal is. I mean, I'm serious.
He is. I don't like him. I don't admire him for the most part. But I think he is. You're right. He is consistent. And, there are fissures within this coalition of the ugly that Trump has put together. And one of them is going to be on trade and globalism. Elon Musk doesn't want to go after China. He's got a lot of business there, right?
Yeah. This thing is going to flame out so spectacularly. For all of the agony that we see and all of the angst we have and the getting up in the middle of the night and, all of the can you believe this shit phone calls, to watch that thing flame out is going to be something to see, and flame out it will, and it will not take long.
Well, if you were right, James, it's going to be enjoyable to watch because they deserve it, and we will be watching that every week right here.
Where we're going to be, I can't tell you, but I'm going to tell you I'm right, and it will flame out spectacularly.
Okay.
And it just I think this thing, and I would get in the conversation today, but there's one myth, and this is something that you and I agree on. I've been talking about this for a long time, and I'll take a little privilege here to go off and make something. I actually like Stephen A. Smith. I think he's one of the better sports commentators there are. When I remember the first time I saw him, which was some years ago, I said, this guy's going to flame out. This shtick is not going to last. And not only did it last, I find it entertaining. I thought it thoughtful and provocative. But I'll say this about Stephen A. Smith. He doesn't know a fucking thing about politics. And he ought to shut the fuck up about politics, talking about he may have to run for president because there's no talent in the Democratic Party. Are you shitting me? Are you taking on the most talented right now, Stephen A. You're talking about the single most talented political party I've ever seen in my lifetime. You say you're a good friend of Wes Moore, who is an all-world talent. You said you've had Josh Shapiro on your show, is an all-world talent. I could give you 5 other people to be on there. All right? The Democratic Party does not need you to run for president.
Right. Including our guest we had last week and our guest we had this week.
On television, all right? You can say what you want to, but you don't know the first fucking thing about American politics. I'll tell you that right now.
James, that's like Stephen A. saying, I may want to be an NFL quarterback because there's no talent among NFL quarterbacks.
Right.
Sure.
I think I'm better than Josh Allen. I think I'm better than Lamar Jackson. I think I'm better than Joe Burrow. I think I'm, better than Patrick Mahomes. That's what you're saying. Yeah. But unfortunately, for the NFL, they put their best players on the field. For the Democratic Party, if you want to say the problem is we played our 7th-string quarterback, you would be right. But that doesn't mean that the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th string ain't still there. Right. They're there, dude. And they're going to come out of the woodwork in 2028.
Right. All right. This will be a ongoing saga, everybody out there. We're going to keep after this every single week.